It was so exaggerated by the media and by the government. They pushed an exaggerated narrative that did not happen. For example, cops initiated the entire thing.
So let me first preface this by saying my understanding of the events are limited. I've watched a couple of documentaries, and one, I have like a real disdain for just the media in general. But I couldn't find a documentary that wasn't, as soon as it comes on, within 3 or 4 minutes, it's like, it just seemed overwhelmingly slanted. No offense to, the media, but they were all, they seemed extremely slanted.
Yeah.
And everything was, violent this, violent that, it was, and I felt like, okay, you guys are pushing this agenda, and I haven't seen, and thus far at that moment, I hadn't seen anything that I would have considered violent. Later I definitely did.
Yeah.
But initially, and then they were saying things that Trump was an agenda that Trump was pushing, but they never showed any footage where he was saying anything wrong. Like, I'm like, okay, they're saying that he's inciting all of this, but I'm watching what he's saying, and unless I had my own agenda, I wouldn't be taking what he's saying in that manner at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, he uses a lot of rhetoric. He's always, spouting off and saying insane stuff. But I mean, you have to take it with a grain of salt, because obviously the left does the same thing. But I couldn't find one that I felt like was non-biased. The problem is, of course, as you watch, they're only showing you one side.
Right.
And let's face it, if that footage didn't exist, then, and I'm not saying it's untrue. I'm not saying their version isn't untrue. I always hate that there's that saying, there's their version and your version, and then there's the truth. And I just felt like I was only able to find their version.
Of course, they had a monopoly on the information that was given, because if you were to say contrary to what the media wanted to put out there, that you were called a conspiracy theorist, or called you're lying, you're trying to erase what would happen. Like, look, I understand that there were people that have done things they probably shouldn't have did on January 6th.
Yeah.
But it was so exaggerated by the media and by the government. They're the big ones that pushed it. And I know the media and the government were in bed together, right? So they pushed an exaggerated narrative that did not happen. For example, the planning of the insurrection. First of all, it wasn't even an insurrection. The insurrection is an actual charge. So let me give you an example. Let's say you go into a candy store and you take some candy. That's called theft, right? That's like you taking something, and then all the news lines say he robbed that store. He robbed that store.
Right.
You didn't rob the store. You stole something.
Right.
So insurrection, they call it insurrection. Insurrection's a charge. No one was charged with insurrection. So that's number one. Anyway, that's just a side point. I digress on that. But they created this narrative that it was a planned, orchestrated event where people were sitting behind, they had blueprints of the Capitol, and they were, marking points. We have these radios, and it's all coordinated event to attack the Capitol. Yeah. That's 100% a lie.
Right.
100% a lie. I don't know anyone who did that. They said that the night before we were at a house and we were coordinating. We were getting drunk the night before. Right. So we were just watching TV getting drunk. So this whole narrative they push, they were allowed to push it because the government pushed that, and the government knew it was a lie. They know it's a lie, but they pushed it anyway for political reasons.
So yeah, we'll get into all that. We're not in a hurry. We're like 13 minutes in.
Sorry, I get kind of carried away with this conversation. I'm upset about it.
What I was going to say is, one of the ones I watched was it was a journalist, and so what he does is, first he starts talking about these white supremacist groups that are at these rallies. This is a year or two prior to and he's saying white supremacist groups, these, and then it shifts to extremist groups, and then he kind of bounces back and forth, and then he starts talking about the Proud Boys. But as I'm watching it, I'm thinking, okay, so in my mind, I immediately start thinking, okay, so the Proud Boys is like a white supremacist group. But as he's showing it, there's blacks. Like, they're black, you know what I'm saying? There's blacks, there's Hispanics, and I'm like, okay, and so it does, what they're showing doesn't quite make sense as far as the Proud Boys are concerned.
Yeah.
And at one point, he does kind of clarify it, where he says, like, although they do allow blacks and Hispanics to join, I was like, you're lumping them in with a white supremacy movement, I'm pretty sure, I'm not positive of this, but I'm pretty sure white supremacist groups probably wouldn't be allowing blacks and Hispanics in. I mean, I don't know.
Doubtful, yeah.
I'm thinking that maybe the core, your core values might be offended by that. But yeah, so that's what they were going into these different rallies and stuff, and that was another one of those things where I was like, well, you're not making a huge distinction here, and you guys keep showing these groups. You keep talking about the Proud Boys being white supremacists, but that's not what I'm seeing at all. And then he talks about how they disappeared, then they came back, and then they were at these rallies, and so how did, and I know that you were involved. So how did you get involved with that group, and why did you get involved? Were you a police officer at the time? I guess that's 3 questions.
So towards the end of my career, where I just decided that I want to do something else, that's when I joined the Proud Boys, and felt like my beliefs and my political beliefs and being a police officer were kind of a I don't know the word to use, but they weren't aligning properly, right? Not to say that police officers are doing the wrong thing, but I feel like a lot of cops, like it was during the COVID time, a lot of cops were doing what they were told, not what they believed in. So, for example, there was like ordinances and things that were coming down from the government, like we had a curfew. So after 9 or 10 o'clock, if anyone was on the street, you had the legal right, unless they were was it called essential, that you could arrest them for breaking the curfew. And I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Right.
I'm not doing that's ridiculous. So things like that were coming down. I'm like, man, this is not what I want to be a part of anymore. So I went on to pursue different things.
And how did the Proud Boys?
So I was still involved with them, and it basically they try to politicize the Proud Boys. The Proud Boys is a drinking group where guys get together, they talk politics. I mean, you can't be left winger and join. Basically, it's a right wing drinking group.
Right.
So you get together a couple times a month, drink some beers, talk about politics, work out together, just like it's a men's group.
Okay.
So it's been politicized over the years. They throw the accusation of white supremacy because the media needs that white supremacist boogeyman because they've been talking about it for years.
Right.
They need that, which is the greatest threat to civilization. I mean, no, it's not. It's ridiculous.
Right.
To even say that. But no, it's not. The Proud Boys is not a white supremacist group. Are some of them unapologetically like pro-white, like white families, but you should be that no matter what you are. I'm pro whatever you are.
Yeah. It's okay if you're black and you say you're pro-black or
be pro-black, exactly,
whatever.
Exactly. So
that's acceptable.
Yeah, they make that acceptable, but you're pro-white, which you should be no matter what race you are. Pro your people. But the group itself is not a white nationalist organization.
Okay.
So,
how did you get involved with them? Like
I just emailed them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I saw them on the streets in 2018 at a Trump event, so I emailed them, and that's how I got in.
Okay. And I mean, and that's it. Like, there's just, I mean, is it it's like a national? I mean, are there rally? Like, what is it? Is there like 12 guys, in Sumter County, or
I mean, I don't know the specific numbers, but there's a lot more than there's a lot of guys in Florida, particularly. There's a lot of Proud Boys across the United States, and majority of them that I met are jam up awesome guys, and the guys locally in the Orlando area. We work out together. We go to church together. We go to the bars together, and we basically it's just a camaraderie thing. Okay. It's a support system for men, like-minded men.
Okay, and so you not retired, whatever. You quit the police department. I mean, it doesn't pay, right? Like, there's not like pay.
So I was making about after taxes. Oh, you're saying they're the Proud Boys?
The Proud Boys, right?
Oh,
I'm like, you quit your job. Like, what are you doing for work at this point?
So I moved on to insurance and things like that.
Okay.
It was much safer. As a cop, I was making about $800 a week after taxes, which is not terrible, but it's not enough to be chasing bad guys and getting shot at, things like that.
How did you transition into going? Like, were you going to rallies, or did you just happen to go to Washington that day?
Oh, on January 6th.
Yeah, like were you going to Trump rallies? Were you going to rallies in general?
I had been to a few Trump rallies, but it was kind of like, we wanted to start staying away from like just showing up to every Trump rally. This was specifically because what you've seen, I don't know if you guys have seen it on YouTube and Facebook and all that, where these Trump supporters would go to Trump rallies, and on their way to their cars, you'd have like Antifa, the anti-fascists. They would basically follow these families. I've seen a wife husband, wife, and children being attacked by these people, being kicked, things thrown at them just because they're wearing MAGA hats.
Right.
So I was pretty pissed off about that. So we went specifically because we figured that Antifa and all these left-wing activists were going to follow them again. Went there to make sure it didn't happen.
Right.
And that's how we got kind of sucked up into the January 6th, the Capitol thing.
And this is going to sound horrible, right? Because you're going to be like, bro, you don't know anything. Like all I hear is, is Antifa. There was a riot or there was a peaceful, protest in Chicago, and Antifa was there, and they burned down, 6 buildings.
Still
or there
peaceful
was,
though, yeah. Peaceful.
You're right, right. It was peaceful, and they knocked out a bunch of windows, or and that I'm always hearing like, well, I don't understand when Antifa goes to some kind of protest and people get beat up, or cars are flipped over or set on fire, or buildings, or whatever, that they say it's peaceful, and they keep saying Antifa. What is Antifa? Like exactly. Like,
Antifa are anti-fascist.
Okay.
So that's just the hyphenated,
Right.
shortened versions, anti-fascist. And they view fascism basically as anything. First of all, it's involved with like white families.
Right.
If you're a conservative white family, you're a fascist. Anything that goes against like their ridiculous Marxist, anarchist view. So they consider anyone who's against that a fascist, and that's what they want to oppose.
Okay. Yeah, that's not what I think of as fascism at all. But I mean, fascism. I feel like it's basically nationalism, right? Like it's
that. Yeah. So prior to the dictionaries that came out in like the 30s and 20s, 30s and 40s, that fascism as ultranationalism, patriotism, things like that. The term fascism was like
Hitler ruined it.
Well,
That's what it is.
They
Hitler
hijacked it because they wanted to. Fascism was a good thing for the people at their time. A lot of these, if you look at the countries, the economy, things like that, they loved their country. The economy was doing good.
Italy. It turned Italy around, right? Like
and Germany as well.
The
German economy was doing really well. They hijacked it because it was fascism arose to fight communism,
right,
and Marxism. So when you're trying to instill these Marxist values, Marxist ideology, fascism was against it. That's why they label everything fascist,
right?
Just so that you don't have to. It's a boogeyman word.
So if you say, "Hey, I'm against socialism," they go, "Oh, you're a fascist," but that's not necessarily true. And on top of that, I was going to say, I think that Adolf was, I mean, I do know that what's so funny is how quickly people forget when he first came into power. And the Nazi Party was elected into power, and then he was appointed. Everybody loved him.
Mm-hmm.
They loved him for years. He was Time Magazine like Man of the Year at one point, and he turned Germany around, and it was amazing. It was phenomenal. Even though there were things that were definitely leaning towards that you could probably see that were definitely leaning toward the coming Holocaust, right? But the problem is, once the Holocaust happened, World War II falls, public opinion shifted away from fascism because they connected the Holocaust with fascism. You know what I'm saying? I mean, in my opinion, like suddenly they said, okay, well, if you're fascist, then you're one race, but you could have fascism in any country. That's
just true,
right? Yeah. There's fascism in Africa. It could be in Africa, Europe. It could be. Actually, who's also is Japan, right? Like Japan, anybody. Yeah, it could
I would
be
say
anything.
El Salvador today is probably the closest thing to fascism that we have. Maybe not 100%, but it's the closest thing that we have.
Right.
It's they've eradicated crime there basically.
Yeah, they took that huge prison,
mm-hmm.
right?
I'm sorry, but go ahead.
No, I what's funny is it's so. I remember and we'll get back to this, and maybe Colby will cut this out. But I think this is kind of interesting, right?
People love the whole fascist World War II debate right now.
Right. Well, listen, I love World War II. I watched the documentaries over and over and over again. I feel bad for my wife, but listen, she's learning a lot. So here's the thing: is that when we went to Germany. When I was probably 11 or 12 years old, We actually picked up a BMW at the factory. This is when they made BMWs in Germany. Picked it up, drove it on the Autobahn, and had it shipped over here because you could do that back then. I don't know if you can now, but so not my whole family, my mom, my mother, father, and I, and we stayed at Airbnbs. Not Airbnbs. They weren't Airbnbs. They were bed and breakfasts. That's what they call them. So they were bed and breakfasts back then. Now it's Airbnb. Well, without the breakfast. So anyway, we stayed, and there was a woman the woman was renting out her rooms. Right. That's what a bed and breakfast was. So I remember we were eating breakfast and we were about to leave, and she was probably in her late 60s. And I remember she was talking. My dad was actually in Korea. He was stationed in Germany. And keep in mind, Korea was only, a decade or so after, 10, 15 years after World War II ended. So they're still recovering. Yeah. There's still buildings that are completely demolished. They haven't even rebuilt. And she was talking about how she had grown up there. She lived there her whole life. She was there during the war. She was a young girl during the war. Talked about how she had 3 brothers who were all alive because they were very young during World War II, but they were all still alive. And when the Americans, that little town we were in, when the Americans came in and they came through the town, and they were like, look, any men that were part of the German army have to bring their paperwork and come, on this day. And she said, I think she said her 3 brothers went down there and one of them came back.
Wow.
And I, so she was telling that to my dad, and I was just like, I'm a little kid, I'm 11 years, I don't have a fucking clue what's going on. I'm like, oh, okay. And my dad was right. So when we got in the car later, I was like, my dad was talking to my mom about it. And I mentioned, I should pull this closer. And I mentioned, well, what does she mean? Why did she say only 2 came back? What happened? Did they go to jail? And my dad said, the history books write a certain version of events so that people can feel okay about horrible things that have happened. Now, back then you could do that. You can't do that now. And so he said that I have no doubt that they determined that one of the brothers hadn't really done anything. He was young. He never left the area. He never left Germany. He never did anything. Probably was never in combat. He left. The other 2 may have been with the SS. Who knows what these guys did? They could have been Gestapo. God only knows. Yeah. But they were on a list of guys that didn't come back. And he's like, who knows what happened to them? Most likely, they may have been executed. Who knows? But he's like, those are the things that happen in war that don't make the history books. Because you can't necessarily go into a country, take it over, and leave a bunch of people to rebuild the country that are armed and upset.
Yeah. And
horrible things have to happen in order to move an agenda forward. And I remember thinking, I realized that. And if you look back, there's tons of events as cameras became more and more prevalent, right? You get the Vietnam stage or era where they're doing atrocities and they're being caught on camera. The things that aren't caught on camera, everybody shuts up about. Yeah. But the horrific things that have to happen in order for you to invade a country and take it over successfully just can't seem to happen now. And they're horrible events. It's brutal, but those things just don't happen anymore. They cannot happen anymore. Society wouldn't be okay. Or you could just be brutally honest with society, and they just mentally, their fragile little brains wouldn't be able to take it. Anyway, when I watch these documentaries and stuff, and I realize when, you expect that of the Soviets when they came in. You don't really expect it. And hey, you know what? The Americans may have just handed them over to the Soviets, right? Soviets took a ton of Germans, brought them into the Soviet Union, and just worked them to death, Yeah. So they may have handed them over. Maybe the Americans didn't get their hands dirty, but somebody had to get their hands dirty. I had a conversation the other day where we were talking about wars and how, the guy had said, well, wars will be fought with drones and this and that. And I was like, at some point you have to have boots on the ground and somebody has to make those horrific decisions, But it's unfortunately it does have to happen unless you're going to think you're going to do what? You're going to put everybody in prisons or in internment camps. You're going to re-educate them. I mean, that's expensive. You know, it's not expensive. Like bullets and gasoline. They're very cheap. They're permanent solutions.
Yeah.
You know, and it's an unfortunate truth, but that's the kind of things that happened back then. And that's the kind of things that would have to happen in order to take over something successfully. Right. And I don't think that because I've had conversations with guys about, Mexico, what could you do about Mexico? I mean, I could think about what you would do that would work, but it would never be accepted. It would just be brutal.
As in, like, invade and
you invade and you do the same
the cartels.
Thing. Yeah, the El Salvador, you're digging ditches and you're leaving bodies, and it's horrific and it's horrible, and it's brutality for 10 years, and then people become assimilated, and in 20 years nobody's even talking about it or thinking about it.
Right.
And, maybe you've got some American Indians running around who are still complaining about it, but that's over. That ship has sailed. You might as well stop complaining. This is what you've got. You got some land and casinos, and that's what you've got. It's not changing. Yeah. Like, you're not, the people that are complaining about, oh, you stole this land. No, you stole it from him, and he stole it from him, and he stole it from him, and we're not.
There was no established nation at that time.
Yeah. Well, I'm never going anywhere. Nobody's going to be like, you're right, bro. I got my DNA thing back. I just got my DNA thing back. I'm going to go to Norway right now because or Sweden, because this one says I'm 60-something% Swedish. So, I'm going to go ahead and go back to one of these Nordic countries. Like, that's not happening. Yeah. Nobody's doing that. Yeah. So stop complaining.
I think you said something like a couple minutes ago that they write history books a certain way, and the victor always writes the history.
Of course.
So it's always manipulated, and that's why I never used to in the past, but now I don't trust the government at all. So I always look into history, and I'm like trying to pick apart what they're doing. So I always try to watch like counter or get counter information, or get information that is counter to what we've been taught, right? So we were talking about the whole World War II thing. I think it's been greatly manipulated to create this like patriotism with Americans. We always did the right thing. We always did the right thing. We're the good guys. I think America's probably been the bad guys in a lot of wars, but they make us believe, or they try to make us believe, that they're the good guys.
Well, what about? I love the way they do it on TV, where when the Allies went into these towns and would find the concentration camps, they'd always be like, can you believe they're doing this? Yeah, I can believe they're doing this because it was in the newspapers 3 years ago that this is what they were doing. You've known this is what they were doing. Yeah. They always acted shocked by it. Like, it's
when
like
we had concentration camps in the United States.
Yeah.
Japanese.
Yeah. I mean, we weren't doing that. We weren't starving them to death, but still, I understand you will do that. Like, look, you have to, there's things you have to do. It's like, oh, they bombed, we're only bombing military targets. No, we're bombing cities that have no military targets. Look at, look at Japan, what is it? Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Like, neither of those were military targets. We bombed both of them. Why? Yeah. Because the weather was good.
Yeah.
I mean, we're trying to get you guys to a point where you will surrender. Did that save American lives? I have no doubt that saved Americans' lives. Was it brutal? Yeah, but that's war.
Yeah.
That's war. It's horrible.
Sucks.
Yeah, it sucks, but that's the way it is. It's same thing with, listen, oh gosh, was it India or Pakistan? I want to say it was India. Yeah. Nobody ever talks about the fact that Churchill took a ton of food and supplies from India, and millions of Indians starved to death so that England could eat. It was a possession of the UK, and they needed food, and so they took food. They took their resources and they used it for the English, and millions of Indians starved to death.
I'm not surprised.
Churchill talks about that.
Churchill, I don't know if you saw, there's a Tucker Carlson interview that was maybe like a year ago or something. And Churchill was not this like savior that they try to prop him up to be. He was the one that instigated World War II. The Germans, Hitler tried to...
Oh, multiple times.
Multiple times. Like, I don't want a war. I don't want a war. Let's not do this. We're very much alike. Let's not do this. And Churchill was the one that kept instigating. I remember during that, I think it was that podcast, that they were about to bomb London, the Germans, and they reached out to Churchill, and tried to make peace. Like, we don't want to continue this war. We don't want to bomb London. We don't want to bomb London. And they try to get the women and children out. And
Actually
they
told
refused.
them, take the women and children out where you're gonna bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah, which he did. He did move them. But listen, Hess built a special plane and flew into I want to say it's Scotland and jumped out. You know this?
I know.
Listen. The stuff that happened in World War II is the stuff of Hollywood. Hess was like the deputy chief, which I think is deputy chief, basically like the vice president. He was afraid that they were moving towards war. He actually had a special plane built and flew into Scotland to try and meet with a guy who was an aristocrat that he had met with before, because he wanted to talk to Churchill about suing for peace, because Churchill would not have a discussion at all, even though Hitler had asked over and over and over again. The problem with Hitler is you couldn't believe him, but he kept making these deals, and then as soon as you dropped your guard, he'd go in and kill you. So I get it. Like, the guy's, he's not a sweet person.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's all kinds of atrocities that occurred during that time. Plus, there were, what was the other one that, and these are things that like nobody knows about. Like, there was a ship that was full of Jews that were coming from Europe that tried to come to the United States, and the United States said, no. You've got 4,000 Jews on that ship or something. We're absolutely not interested. Turn it around. Eventually, they had to go back to Germany, went back to Germany, landed, and ended up in concentration camps. Well, what happened to, bring us your poor, bring us your, these things, like, we were an isolationist country at that point. We were like, hey, that's their problem. Although honestly, it did put America into a great position globally at that time. And I mean, it shifted the power base of the world power base to America at that time. So,
Right.
But regardless, those are all things that nobody ever talks about. Like, war in general is brutal. These are brutal people, brutal times, brutal things have to happen. So we were talking about World War II and how these horrific things happen. So let's go back to all of the events that led up to. I hate the segue there, bro. It's a horrible segue. It's fucking horrible.
Well, y'all were talking about Antifa, right?
I feel like that's the
January 6th
same.
and the Holocaust.
Yeah, bro. That's
what they
a
say.
horrible.
It's. I mean, it's. We were talking about fascism and Antifa and all that.
That's a horrible.
So that's how
There's
it
some
trans-
similarities. I'll probably take.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now I know fascism. Yeah.
So I'll probably trim down a little bit of those stories and try to, if you're going to roll with fascism, and then kind of.
Yeah. I think that the comparison in fascism had not been connected to, the Holocaust, then it probably wouldn't have this horrific, because people loved fascism up until World War II and the Holocaust, and then it got that connection, and then it was over.
I'm going to give you my opinion on this.
Okay.
So I think the reason why fascism has such a bad, from the both left and the right, that's the only thing the left and the right agree on, is fascism is bad. I think it's because during the time Mussolini, Hitler, and when that was in the 30s, is that they arrested the bankers, right? And they shut down central banks in Germany, and I think it was in I can't remember the other country, but several countries they shut down the central banks. Italy was one of them, but there was another one too, and I can't remember the other one. But it's all in that area of Europe. But they shut down these banks and they arrested the Rothschilds. Okay, when you arrest the Rothschilds, which are still like the richest family in the universe, you start stepping on toes, right? And when you cause the international banks to lose so much money because you're shutting down banks in Europe, big banks in Europe, that's when I think they started to get upset that, we got to get rid of this fascism thing because they're shutting down banks and now we're losing billions of dollars. So I think that's why they started shifting towards, we got to start making this ideology, even though it was looked at as like ultra nationalism, we have to make this ideology distasteful in people's mouths. And I think that's when it started to change. But yeah, the Holocaust didn't help. I think the initial thing though was the arresting the Rothschilds and messing with the international banks.
Okay. Did you know that? That Henry Ford actually had bought a. I hate to keep going back to this, but I mean, there's a restaurant called Ford's Garage.
Yeah.
It's great.
I
Have you
like
ever
it,
been
yeah.
there? The bathrooms are super. I always kind of go in the bathrooms because they've got all this stuff made in the bath. Have you ever been in the bathroom?
I don't remember. I've been
Are
there,
you
but I
s-
can't remember.
They've got like like when you go to wash your hands,
Like a swastika or something?
no,
I'm just kidding.
no, it's a gas pump.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
you pull, you turn it, and it's a gas pump, and it's got a big tire, and then like the urinals are big, like 50-gallon drums.
It's like a mechanic shop. Yeah.
It is. It looks
Yeah.
like a mechanic. Like it's like everything's made out of. It's super super cool. They have like a Model T up always in the somewhere over the bar.
The food is good too. Yeah.
Yeah, the food is great, but I always think to myself, like, this guy was a huge anti-Semite.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and now there's like nobody ever says that. Like you're taking down statues of Robert E. Lee, but
you
you're
got
eating
Ford,
at
yeah.
Ford's.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so many things like that it's like,
But yeah, the JFK files came out, and in those files, it showed that he said that Hitler was the stuff of legends, and that he believes that when all the hatred for Hitler is over, they're going to realize that he was actually a good person. JFK. So I'm like, man, JFK, maybe that's why they killed him. I don't know.
yeah, I think there's probably another reason, but yeah. I know I can't wait till people go through and just tear that whole thing apart and find out. Not that I can't imagine you would keep the truth. I can't imagine you would keep any record of whatever really happened. We'll probably just never know.
Yeah.
So that's what you're thinking, that it's a whole the bankers are behind it.
I think the bankers are behind everything.
Okay.
I think everything that is, it's manipulated by the interest of the international bankers.
Oh my gosh, what's the guy? I forget his name. I won't get his name right. Anyway, you might know him. He's a little guy like us. He's a billionaire. He does these whatever big conferences and stuff where he gets up and talks.
I think
Pena or something like that.
Yeah, I know you're
Yells
talking
and
about.
screams.
Yeah. I think you might be right.
He's horribly crass, but I love that there's a woman who gets up and kind of confronts him and starts yelling about global warming, and he says, "Listen, it's a fraud. It's the biggest fraud that's ever been perpetrated on society." And she's like, and she's screaming at him. He's like, "Listen," he's like, "Do you think that if that was true, you'd be able to get a loan on a piece of land or a business anywhere in Florida?"
Mm-hmm.
Since I remember I've told my wife this multiple times. When I was in school, we had our science books talked about how by the year 2000, it was like 50% of Florida would be gone.
Yeah. They've been saying that for decades.
They've been saying that for 50 years.
Yeah.
I've been here, and it's like, how foolish are you that you believe? First of all, the planet is constantly heating up and cooling. That's with us, with or without us. We are probably so irrelevant in the grand scheme. But the fact is, for you to continually believe that in the next 10 years or 50 years or whatever, I don't know about you, but it's cold as fuck right now in Florida.
Yeah.
There's all those TikToks that come out and say, look, Trump just became president. He already fixed global warming.
Yeah.
It's snowing in
Yeah.
Florida.
They had 9 inches of snow in North Florida.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
It's nuts. Like you can't determine what's happening with time, and you certainly can't believe the people writing these books, and you certainly can't believe the press. Did you see the thing that just came out where there's a whistleblower that says that Kamala Harris was given all the questions to the debate with Trump
I saw
prior to that?
I saw that. That's why she was good during the debates.
Yeah.
But like on a regular interview, she sucks.
Right. That's why she wouldn't go on Joe Rogan.
Yep,
Oh, she's
yep.
not going to talk to Joe Rogan.
Yep.
And he probably, honestly, Rogan, I think, would have been very fair. He would have probably asked her just like, and when they asked him about that, he was like, yeah, I just want to get to know her. I'm not here to, I'm not trying to ambush her or anything. I'm trying to have a
Rogan's
conversation.
would have been the most fair, but obviously, like you said, she would have been ambushed with questions that she's not ready to answer.
Yeah, even if a simple question, how do you plan on fixing, whatever the cost of food or this and that? She just doesn't have a plan. She can't answer it. And I don't know that Trump's going to fix any of that either. I mean, I think I've said this multiple times. I think that the economy is in a lot of trouble and it's going down. and it's like a building that's coming down. It's like, who's best to bring the building down? Like, is it gonna just topple over, or do we have a controlled, demolition? Like, I think Trump, it's more of a controlled demolition. I think with Harris, it would have just tumbled over and taken out a few other buildings. But I think there's a problem with the economy. Like, houses are too expensive.
Yeah, it is pretty ridiculous.
Food's too expensive. Okay, but let's get back to the topic. So how did you end up at the rally?
Like, literally, how did I end up, or like?
Yeah, no, I don't mean, did you take an F-150 or no?
No. We, saw that it was going to happen. Like I said, we knew that there was going to be leftist activists that were going to follow people to their cars and attack them, and we hate that. And we wanted to go to make sure it didn't happen.
Is it like you and like 6 other Proud Boys, or were 30?
Us specifically, like my area, I think we had around 6 guys that went. But Proud Boys in general, there was, I don't know, maybe 50. I'm not sure. I don't know the exact numbers. We didn't coordinate with all the other guys about going.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, did you know the other people were coming?
Yeah, I knew other guys were going, but I didn't know specifically who was going.
Okay.
So, but I was hearing and seeing other guys planning on going as well.
So you guys didn't meet up in the woods in a big tent and plan out
with blueprints of the Capitol, guys in fatigues now.
Yeah, I watched one of the videos was American. It was called, I think it was American Insurrection or something Insurrection, and I just thought to myself, this is not coordinated. This is not a coordinated thing. And this is a bunch of guys. Even when the barricades came down, like these guys, they're not flooding in. There was tons of people, like the barricades came, when people are just standing there. You know what I'm saying? There's very few people that were, and there were some people that were like, hey, yeah, this is wrong. The people are being pushed around. You're knocking out windows. Like this is, they didn't want to be a part of that. And I think the bulk of those people that were there that's not what
no one intended on that happening, bro. Like no one intended on that.
So what happened? You guys, you meet up with your 6 guys there. Are you noticing other guys are there?
Yeah, there's like 200,000 people there. We were alone basically though. We stayed in our own group. We were just walking around, kind of just patrolling the streets, seeing if any leftists were going to start attacking people. We were far away from the Capitol. We didn't even go to the Trump speech. My guys, we didn't go. But we heard that he was going to be at the Capitol, so that's why we went to see what was going on, because we saw everyone moving over there. But our plans weren't to go there. We were going to go to like Black Lives Matter Square or whatever it's called, because we know they hang out there and they start like, antagonizing people. That's where we were headed until we heard that there was like some commotion at the Capitol. Like, oh, let's go see. So we went there, and I'll tell you, the police were the ones that instigated the entire thing. Everyone, I was around 10,000 people, and everyone was peaceful, singing the national anthem. People were singing the national anthem, and maybe people were cursing and stuff, but it wasn't like that we were just rushing the gates and trying to attack cops. One thing led to another. We see cops all like lining up on like the little bridge there, whatever it is, and they have paintball guns and they're start throwing flashbangs. They're shooting us. This is before anything started. Everyone was like, what the hell is going on? People are getting shot in the face with paintballs, flashbangs going off. I have the video of all this. That's when it started escalating, or people started to like rush the gates and start rushing police officers because they instigated it. Nobody was causing any violence. They're the ones that started it. The DOJ knows that, but they pushed this narrative like we went there with the intention to take over the Capitol and commit violence. It was absolutely firsthand experience. The cops initiated the entire thing.
So once, did you go that you went there after his speech ended?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
But you didn't hear the speech?
I did not hear the speech. We were not there.
Okay.
I don't know if any of the Proud Boys are there. I know people were there,
right.
but
your
my guys weren't
group,
there.
right?
My group was not there, no.
So you guys go there. By the time you got there, had the barricades come down?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I didn't even know there were barricades like blocking it because I didn't see it. We just saw, 15,000 people walking. We just started walking with them.
Yeah, no, they were obliterated. I mean, it's funny. It's not like they fell down and stayed down. They were thrown all around. So
yeah.
there was garbage, or I don't know if garbage, but there was debris in different spots all over the place. Yeah, it's funny because you'd have one guy screaming and hollering at the cops, and you'd have, there's 1,000 guys standing around them, just standing at the barricade, but there's one guy who's like just in the cop's face, yelling and screaming,
right.
And they're there with their the riot gear. They're just standing there, just staring at him, saying nothing, and the guys are screaming. They're saying all kinds of crazy stuff. But most people didn't. They just, were just there. And it's funny because I watched one of these was from Vice.
They're the worst. Yeah.
And they would show, this is what I didn't get, because I was trying to get like clarification. And they would show someone on film screaming, and then they would, they do the whole zoop, they freeze the guy's face, and then they mention what he was charged with. But I didn't see the guy had, not all of them, some of them definitely I could see like, hey, this guy's breaking windows. This guy definitely, jumped over a barricade, whatever. But for the most part, they never show what any of these guys did. So I'm wondering, how do you know what they did? Like, how do you know that this guy, how do you know to charge this guy with anything? I can see him walking in a crowd. Like, I'm thinking maybe he must have done something inside. But I watched the whole thing, and there's never a video of this guy inside doing anything.
The DOJ has CCTV cameras all around the Capitol. So that's how they got, the videos of what people did. So Vice is not showing you everything. They're, just cherry picking what videos that look good for their documentary.
Right. Okay. I actually didn't think that the documentary was if there are better images, I didn't think that the documentary was horrific, because I'm watching it. I'm like, okay, this guy was charged with something. Okay. And I'm kind of trying to remember his name and waiting to see what happened. And then I never see anything else. So by the end of the documentary, I was like, I don't understand how this guy got charged, or some of these guys that they're showing on film are getting charged. I'm not seeing what they did. So I wonder why they wouldn't have given, if that footage exists, I'm wondering why they didn't give that footage to Vice to use in the documentary. Some of them absolutely. Like, there are some guys there that they're knocking out windows, they're pushing guards, they're doing all kinds of stuff. So I'm thinking, yeah, bro, what are you doing? Like that's like, it's not acceptable. That's not acceptable.
Right.
You can't be doing that. So yeah, you should be charged with something. I don't know what you get charged with for that. I don't know. Are these? Or I guess they are police officers or security guards. Or
they're
real
cops?
cops?
They're cops. They're cops.
Yeah.
So they're assaulting a police officer at that point.
But they were also charged with whatever the other crime. So you're saying there is no charge, no actual federal charge of insurrection?
It exists. It's a real charge.
Okay.
But nobody was charged with insurrection.
So what is it?
What they charged people with that was related to a riot was civil disorder. So you're engaged in a riot, and you are obstructing a police officer. That's basically what they charged everyone for the riot itself. But they also, here's the big one that I don't know if you remember this. It's 1512. It's U.S. Code 1512, right?
Okay.
And it's obstruction of an official proceeding. So that is a law that was created in like the 1800s to prevent someone like messing with an election integrity back when, elections were all by hand and people could, it's 1800s, right?
Right.
That's an old law, and they charged everyone with that. And it was like carries like a 20-year sentence. It's ridiculous. They said we obstructed Congress doing their job, right? So in July of last year, Supreme Court heard that case and said, hey, I think it was Gorsuch, said that, hey, this doesn't apply to what you guys are charging people with. This is a way overreach. So they knocked it down. So they had to remove that charge from. I got charged with that too, from all the cases. So it took away their heavy charge of 20 years, and it dropped it down to like a regular felony of civil disorder, like a 5-year sentence.
Right.
But there was also another one, seditious conspiracy, which is they're saying that like the Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, we were planning in the the woods, like you were saying, with combat boots and walkie talkies.
Right.
But there was no insurrection charge.
Yeah. If there was
no one was charged with that.
If there was a plan, it was not well executed.
Yeah.
So, listen, I'm going to bring up 2 movies here in a minute, because I love this stuff. But in the movies, they were much better at this than you guys.
Yeah.
So what did you do once you guys got to the Capitol? What'd you do? You just walked in to see what's going on?
Yeah,
because most people are walking around like this.
I've never been to the Capitol. I've been to DC before, but I've never been inside the Capitol or even around the Capitol. So I just walked around. I was looking around, like just at everything. I'd never been there. I didn't know where I was going. I had no direction. There was I think 800 people in there or something like that. So I'm just following other people, talking to people, seeing people I know. I'm like, oh, what's up, dude? I didn't break anything. I didn't attack any police officers. The DOJ during my sentencing earlier this month, I was in DC. They said that I was physical with a police officer. So the judge was like, let me see the video. You know what physical meant? Mm-mm. That I like brushed arms with a police officer. Basically, that and not on purpose. Like I'm like walking by, and we brush arms. That's the kind of little things that the DOJ does to exaggerate and make it seem like you're some violent person. So all over the news, they're saying at some point Nathan was physical with police officers. Well, so you make me look bad, but the actual thing was me like rubbing my arm against a police officer on accident, no intent to hurt this person. So, and I don't know where I was going with that, but
no, that's exactly where I'm going. It's like, so you walked in. Where did you go in the building?
I don't even remember.
What is the name of the building? What am I thinking? It's
the
Capitol, right?
It's the Capitol.
Yeah.
You're talking the Senate chambers, the Congress chamber.
Right.
I don't know where I was. I don't know the direction that I went. I was walking through the hallways, walking past offices and stuff. I had no idea where I was going.
By the time that you got there, were there people like guarding the doors, or was it pretty much just like,
yeah,
hey?
no, there were cops standing by the doors. There were cops standing by the doors, and they were doing like a semi, everyone get out. Everyone needs to get out.
Right.
Everyone needs to get out. But it wasn't like there were riot cops standing. Eventually, after like maybe a half hour, a bunch of riot cops came out and they were trying to push everyone out. That's when they started getting physical and using their shields to push everyone out. But initially, I saw cops like in hall. I was talking to cops in hallways.
Right.
They were just standing there where people were just discussing, talking about how messed up the election was, things like that. In the Capitol, I didn't see one police officer attacked or hit or anything. It was just like cops kind of knew, all right, it's kind of out of control now, but there's nothing we can do. Let's just wait till this is over. So yeah, it was much more peaceful than they're trying to make it appear.
So what? Well, I mean, you're saying like you didn't have an actual you guys didn't have an actual conversation. What do you think that? It's so I hate to say it. Do you ever hear George Carlin? George Carlin? I think it's George Carlin. Where he explains, he's like, you don't, in order for there to be a conspiracy, you don't have to have a formal consensus, right?
Yeah.
As long as all of your goals are in line with one another, right? So we don't have to get together and have a conversation as long as our all of our goals are this. And I think that's kind of the consensus of the government as far as conspiracies are concerned. But even within your group, you didn't have a conversation.
No.
You know what I'm saying? It's not like
I was separated from my group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Were you with your dad?
Yeah, my dad was there, but we got separated. So I walked in, I got in, and they were still outside. So I went in, they went around wherever they went. They walked in through open doors. There's video of it. They just literally walked in through open doors. And there was no consensus. It was just unfolding so rapidly. We didn't really know what was going on. I was just like, oh my God, like this is crazy. Like I'm in the Capitol right now. And there was no consensus or plan to do it. The government, like you said, has this idea that everyone had the idea to go in there and stop the election of Joe Biden.
Right.
Are you?
But by that point, it had already happened.
Yeah,
right?
I think this was like 2:14 or something, that the initial breach, and they did it at like noon.
Right. The vice president had already, I think it's
certified the election.
Yeah. Right, is what it's called. Like, and I guess Trump was hoping that he wouldn't certify it, but you're being presented with documents that appear to be perfectly legit, regardless of whether they are or not, or it comes out later. This is what seems legit. These senators have signed off on this, or their governor, or whatever. Everybody signed off that's supposed to sign off. Like, yeah. I'm not sure what he was supposed to do. You may have a different opinion, but I'm not sure, like, if my job entails that I have to make sure that all of these are certified and signed by the proper people, and they are, well, then if that happens, then I have to say that this is the result of the election. Then that's what I have to do. That's it. So,
and I don't think, at least I can speak for my group, but I can speak for probably a lot of people. No one had the intention of going there to stop Mike Pence from certifying the election.
Right.
First of all, I didn't even know they were doing that or had done that right then and there. I didn't know what time they were doing that. Right. And I knew that it's impossible to stop that. You're not. What did they do? Or is the DOJ? I know they're not under. It's a rhetorical question. Do they think that we're that stupid that we are going to occupy the Capitol, take over the government for the next 4 years until we bring Trump back? That's a ridiculous notion. That's what they pushed. And like you said earlier, if we planned to do this, it was poorly executed. But if we really did, it would have been way worse. It would have been way worse if it was a real plan to do it, and the government would have intervened before it happened.
Yeah, well, not just that. Let's face it. If this is part of the plan, I'm bringing weapons.
Exactly.
I'm not going in with my cell phone.
Exactly.
This isn't going to. I'm not going to be going and push a bunch of Capitol police officers with my hands when they're fully armed. Like and I don't see anybody pulling weapons or doing anything like that.
Yeah. One of my good friends was he's on video walking around with a beer and a cigarette.
Right.
Like, really, you're taking over the Capitol with a beer and a cigarette? I mean, it looks cool, but come on.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there are guys that are live streaming. There are guys that are doing everything. The one guy comes with the horns and sits down and everything. Like, stop it. That's not how you're taking over the Capitol.
Yeah.
Like that was not.
It's
It's
an iconic look. It's an iconic look. But
yeah. Listen, it's a great photo op, but it's not. And listen, for one thing, if you were going to have that meeting and this guy said, "Yeah, this is what I'm wearing tomorrow," it would have been like, "No, you're not.
We're sending you home.
Yeah,
go
we're gonna
change, come back."
This is not a look we want to go with."
Yeah. It's
just shirt off.
His face painted or whatever it was. Yeah.
But I was just saying, did you see the movie? Oh God, come on, Civil War.
Civil War.
Obviously, you didn't see it. I already know you didn't see it because if you'd seen it, you'd been like, yes.
Yeah, but I'm thinking. I know there's a Marvel movie called Civil War.
No, this is. Are you serious?
How old
This
is
like
this movie?
a year ago.
It just came out?
Yes, it was.
Can I look this up? Let me look this up real quick.
You didn't see it. I'm telling you right. I know you didn't
know.
see
If
it.
it came out last year, I didn't see it.
No. The overall premise is that, and this is how it's like it's so convoluted, which bothers me. It's so like this is obviously this is a year ago, right? This is before the election, and this is when we did a video called talking about a potential civil war, which got. Did you ask them to review that?
I gotta watch them. I want to watch them so I can tell Our Lady this part, whatever.
It's like great because we could repost that at some point. Oh, all right. Forget it.
I don't think.
He didn't want to.
I'll leave this question in here because I think people watching, I feel like if they see a repost, they'll
They get upset.
yeah, they're like, bro,
Yeah,
what's going on?
but it was it got limited. You don't know anything about YouTube probably, but
Not really. No.
So we have videos that get fully monetized, and we have some that get limited monetization, which is basically might as well we typically say demonetized. Okay. Because you get if you were going to make $1, you're now making like 15 cents. So it's basically useless. That video, because we talked about a potential civil war, it got demonetized. It got limited monetization. Like it was, and there was nothing in that video. Like this conversation right here, there's about a 50, depending on what magic Colby does, there's probably 50% chance this thing gets. We've already mentioned some horrible things that YouTube doesn't want anything to do with, or even
You're saying this episode here, a 50% chance it'll be demonetized.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Even though Colby will go in and beep out all kinds of stuff, and he'll do all kinds of stuff. But in that movie, what happens is, listen to the premise of the movie. Is it California and Texas, and I want to say maybe Florida? I forget. Break off, and they try and separate from the United States. Like, can you imagine California and Texas decide they're going to form their own country?
Florida and Texas, but not California.
Exactly. Yeah, that's that I get.
Yeah.
And I forget what they called their thing. And they want to separate. There's a president in, but you don't know he's serving his third term. See what I'm saying? So they're trying to do
There's some parallels they're trying to draw here.
Yes. Yeah. And so what happens is, obviously the California Texas thing, they break off. Well, there's a civil war, and they've been winning, and they're actually entering the Capitol. And so I would say out of the budget of the movie, which I think is pretty good, I want to say it's like 40 or 50 million, because I remember thinking this is, let's say 80% of the movie is just not great, right? I mean, not that it's not great. It's okay. It's just not what you expect. Like, I'm expecting a lot more battle. It's not. There's some little skirmishes here and there in towns and stuff. But when they get to the Capitol, where these guys are coming in the Capitol, it's a great movie. Like, it becomes really good.
I have to watch it. I may watch it tonight, probably.
If you sleep hot at night, you know how disruptive that can be. Whether you're having trouble falling asleep, you're waking up sweating in the middle of the night, or all of the above, that's where GhostBed can help. As the makers of the coolest beds in the world, GhostBed is your go-to for cooling mattresses, cooling pillows, and cooling bedding. From their signature Ghost Ice fabric to patented technology that adjusts to your body's temperature, every Ghost Bed mattress is designed with cooling in mind. So whether you want a plusher mattress that cushions your shoulders and hips, or a firm option with exceptional support, your Ghost Bed will keep you cool and comfortable all night long. When you purchase a Ghost Bed mattress, your comfort is guaranteed. You can try out your mattress for 101 nights, risk-free, to make sure it's the right fit for you. Plus, they offer free shipping, and most items are shipped within 24 hours. If you're not sure which Ghost Bed is right for you, check out their mattress quiz. You'll answer a few questions and get a personalized recommendation. Even better, our listeners can get 50% off site-wide for a limited time. Just visit ghostbed.com/Cox and use the code COX at checkout. Again, that's ghostbed.com/Cox with the code COX at the checkout to save a whopping 50% off site-wide. But you don't know. The whole thing is, what bothers me about the movie is that you don't know, like, who are the there is no one side. These are the conservatives and liberals, or it's not like that. It's very ambiguous. You don't know who's what. You have no but it's interesting what's happening, how people are reacting in small towns. And one of the scenes is these people stumble into a small town where they get grabbed hold of by a National Guard unit or something. And apparently there's a faction of them who have essentially they've dug a huge ditch and it's filled with bodies. Like they're just cleaning house. And of course it's a bunch of white guys doing this horrific thing because, it can't be the reverse.
Yeah, of course not. Yeah.
So that's what's acceptable, and of course they execute one or two guys during that time, and that's a kind of a troubling scene. But the movie overall, it's interesting. It could have been probably great if they had really made the distinctions. You know what I mean? But they didn't want to take that on. That's one movie.
It's kind of implied though. If all the white guys are doing the bad stuff, it's kind of implied that
you have to.
Who's bad?
But I don't know. But you don't. Here's the problem. You don't know who that is though. You don't know, is that the Texas California coming in, or is that the American military? That's the whole thing. When you get there, you don't know.
All right, so I'll watch it and then I'll try to formulate an opinion on.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah. I would have shaved probably 15 minutes off the movie, and there could have been some better stuff. But yeah, it was pretty good. That was one movie, and I can't remember what the other movie was. But either way, these were well formulated. I think the other one is. Did you ever see? Come on, Matt. It's called *Handmaid's Tale*.
No, I've seen the clips of it where these women are dressed in red dresses and stuff.
Are you serious? What do you do?
I don't watch movies that much. I don't watch movies that much.
First of all,
I have a toddler.
It's a series. It's not a movie. It's a series, and it is a phenomenal series. It's on Hulu, which nobody has. It'd probably be out of business by the end of this podcast. But the point is that it's a great series. And what happens is, and I love that they base it all on current events, where it's basically because this is really happening. I'm sure you've heard this, that male testosterone is dropping dramatically over the last 50 years, right? We're not producing kids as much. We're not there's all kinds of things. And it's funny because if you ever watch scientists and stuff, you always hear about how overpopulation. The truth is, we've got about another 10 years of expansion, maybe 20, and then our population is going to start taking a complete nosedive.
Right.
Just statistically. So the whole, we're going to use up our resources. No, we're going to have, in 50 years, we're going to have a major fucking problem in not just this country, everywhere. Because other countries are already starting to shrink. So, but what they say is, look, that basically women stop being able to have children.
This is what the show is about.
This is what the show is about.
Yeah.
And that's what sparks the United States. There is a military coup in the United States. They take over and they start going through and they drop back to a very, very radicalized Christian fundamentalists that pull things from the Old Testament, and they come up with this religion that sweeps the country, and they execute tons of people. People are fleeing to Canada, believe it or not. So they're fleeing to Canada, and of course most people don't flee at all because they get caught here,
right?
But they end up breaking the whole society into, women make up 3 different there's like three classes of women. There's men. There are certain families that are part of like this group that's running the whole thing, and women can't learn to read and write. Like it's a whole thing, and the women that can still have children become handmaids. So if you're a member of the government and you have a wife that you love and you're a prominent member of the government, then you get to have a handmaid and you get to get her pregnant the old-fashioned way. And she has babies for you, and then she has a baby and goes to another family, and that's how they're having children. Now, most of the world is disgusted by what's happening, but after a few years, they come to grips with our population. Like Mexico comes and they're like, why are you willing to deal with the American or this, whatever, I forget the name of the country. Well, why are you dealing with that? They're like, we haven't had a child born in our country in 15 years.
Wow.
We're devastated. So, but it's about being a handmaid and the whole thing. And listen, super interesting. But the whole thing,
I think my wife has watched it.
Oh, bro,
I've seen
so
clips
good.
of it. Yeah.
But it's how they take over. It talks about how they take over and that sort of thing. And what's society. Great movie. Anyway, you might hate it. But
I've seen a lot of
loved it.
leftist women online complaining about it. Like, oh my God, Trump is going to turn everything into The Handmaid's
God.
Tale. It's
I
so
know.
ridiculous.
I love that. Like, because that's what he did last time.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get back to this. I'm sure Colby's going to be like, this motherfucker all over the place. So you come in, you walk around, you have an unguided tour of the Capitol. What happens? At what point do you ever get arrested, or you just go home?
No, we just went home after that. Like once we realized that there's a bunch of like riot cops like surrounding us, we're like, all right, fine, we'll leave.
I'm not interested.
Yeah, so we walked out, on our own, and we walked back to our hotel and went to the airport.
Did you break anything?
No, I didn't break
Did
anything.
you take anything?
Mm-mm.
There's some nice paintings.
Didn't take it, didn't break it, and we just went back to the hotel. We actually went to Applebee's after that. Had a couple brews, and then went back to the hotel, and then went home the next day. That was basically it. That was what I'm telling you is basically the full extent of what happened, at least from my group.
I mean, are you when you go into the Capitol? Are you thinking anything?
I'm in awe at that
Okay.
point. I'm like, oh my God, this is like historic. Like there's a protest inside the Capitol. I'm a part of this. Like it's just so crazy. It's so cool.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just looking around, like looking at the statues and the paintings, and it was just history. I'm like, this is really cool.
Do you have any conversations with your buddies? Like, yeah, they're gonna recertify it, or this? Trump's
Nothing
not
about
gonna-
that.
Nothing.
Zero about that. Before, during, after, zero conversations about any kind of interruption in the election.
It's just like, hey, this is just insanity. I can't believe that this just happened.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
You go to Applebee's. You have some chicken fajitas,
Mozzarella sticks.
Oh.
Mozzarella sticks and beer.
and then you guys, what you drive all the way back to Florida?
No, we drove. I think our flight was out of Virginia or Baltimore or something.
What about there? I don't know. I pictured a convoy. I figured.
No, yeah, with like
Everybody-
Humvees,
SUV, yeah.
Humvees
Yeah.
or blacked out SUVs. No,
Or some Toyotas with the
the Hilux, the Toyota Hilux,
Yeah.
yeah, with a little machine gun in the back, the 50 cal.
So you fly back.
We flew back. We were nervous, like going back to the airport and even going back to the hotel. We're like, oh man, we're nervous, like because we were hearing people already getting arrested, like at the airport and stuff. People were getting picked up already, so we're like, oh man, we're gonna get arrested. So it was a little scary at first, but I mean that was basically it. We flew back.
Well, I mean, I'm assuming you didn't get a letter in the mail asking for you to stop by the FBI office.
No. Months went by. I was always kind of nervous about it. Like, oh man, maybe I'm going to get caught. But I had a mask on the whole time. Like, maybe I'm not, And months went by, and
So you feel like you've done something wrong. If you're feeling like that, you feel like
listen, my opinion, I did nothing wrong.
Right.
I walked in. It was a protest. Certain points got out of hand. Certain people did things that I wouldn't have done. But it was not, I didn't do it. I didn't hurt anyone. I was just walking around in a building that I've paid for with my tax dollars for all my adult life. The reason why I was nervous is because everyone was getting picked up. So I'm like, man,
Right.
I'm going to get picked up for this. I was nervous, not because I felt like I was ashamed of it, but because, what if I lose my job? What if
Right.
I go to jail for, this many years? So I was nervous about that. So I think it was July 15th, 2021, I'm going to work. I get out of my vehicle. I have my lunch in my hand, my briefcase, and I'm walking into the office. Right before I get to the doors, like 30 unmarks pull up. They all get out in their gear. They get me on the ground in the parking lot. And my entire staff was watching. Other offices were watching. Like, it was just a big fiasco. You had the FBI there. You had, I think, the marshals were there. You had FHP, a bunch of different other city police officers. And so I got arrested, and I'm talking to them. I'm like, why did you guys do this at my job? I was like, was this intentional? And they're like, no, it's because you have a history as law enforcement, so we know you have guns. I was like, you could have surrounded my house and called me and said, hey, come outside. And I would have surrendered immediately. So you didn't have to do this, but they insist. That's what it was. It was purely for safety. So yeah, I got arrested. They took me back to the FBI office in Maitland, which is near Orlando. Tried to smooth me over, like, man, you're in really good shape. Talk to us about what you do for your diet and workouts. And I was like, yeah, that's what I said. I was like, all right, look. I said, if you're legitimately interested, I'll tell you. I was like, but if you're trying to do this, like, try to get me to interview with you, just be nice to me. I said, it's not going to work. They're like, no, we're interested. So I BS with them for like 15 minutes. Then they're like, all right, let me ask you a question about January 6th. I was like, nope. I said, we're done. Just take me to jail. It's like, all right. They took me to the federal jail in Orlando. I spent maybe like 10 hours in there. No big deal.
Did they give you they initially appoint you a public defender, right?
Yeah, initially the first day, yeah. And then I hired an attorney after that.
What did the public defender say?
Just don't say anything. Just be quiet. You're going to have a bunch of media outside. Don't say anything to them. Just let me do all the talking. And you just, when you get out, walk to your car, get a ride, and go home. That's what I did. I regret it now. I wish I would have been like mean outside, but I wasn't.
You're like, don't say. I've been telling the lawyer, don't say anything. They just appointed you to me. God knows what you're going to say.
Yeah. Well, he was cool. Did what he had to do.
They're usually pretty good. The federal defenders. So then you go out and get a regular attorney.
Yeah, a regular attorney, and he was involved already with other J6ers, so I got him. So.
What's he saying?
They were both on our side. Like, this is total BS. Like, this is totally being exaggerated. If this was a leftist protest, it would have been just like a trespassing charge that you pay a certain fine. That's it. Boom, you're done. But they're overdoing this because it was related to Trump and because it was right wingers. There's a political bias, especially in DC. DC is all leftist. So they were on our side and saying, it was kind of grim at first. Like, they're like, you're going to get some prison time probably, and it's probably going to be, in the area of, 2 to 5 years. So I was preparing myself mentally for it, that I was going to go to prison. But I didn't think Trump was going to win the election, to be honest with you.
Are you serious?
I didn't think he was. I mean, fairly, if it was fair, yes, but I thought they were going to pull a little bait and switch, and Harris was going to win. So I was not optimistic about. I was going to jail. Like, I had to turn myself in March, so I knew I was going to jail. But my boy Trump came through.
Just say, how bad does this chick have to feel? Honestly, I mean, think about it. Like, first of all, I don't even understand
who Harris.
Harris, like, I don't even understand the numbers, because if you do the numbers, like, more people voted 4 years ago.
Yeah,
like
15 million more.
Yeah,
or
that doesn't even, like, the numbers don't even make sense. Like, first of all, there were more Democrats 15 years ago. Like, did they shift? And then if you said, or they just stayed home. Maybe they just stayed home.
I think you're talking about this. There's a chart that I've seen online. It's like from Bush times. It's like 63 million, and then it goes to Obama, and it's like 68 million, and then it goes to Obama again, 67 million. And then it goes to Trump, 60 something million. Then it goes to Biden. It's like 85 million.
Yeah.
Then back down to Kamala, 65 million. So it's like straight line almost for the last 20 years. And then Joe Biden, 15 million more. And then they just disappear.
Well, it's not even a straight line. It's that more and more people, in general, more and more people vote every single year. But in this election, it dropped.
Yeah.
How is that possible? Like, that doesn't,
by millions, 15 million is not possible.
So that to me, that statistic helps the idea of ballot stuffing, and a rigged election. But regardless, that's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to be readdressed by anybody. So,
and that's not the reason why I went to DC. Right. And I went there. I personally believe there was some. I'm not going to say it was. I believe that it was stolen. But let's just say, I'll say that there are circumstances like that and evidence that is things that are not questions that have not been answered, and then everyone refused to answer them. Weird things like that. But I didn't go to DC on January 6th to protest that. Okay. I went there to defend the people who were walking back to their cars and got caught up in a protest. And then I got upset. And then I started protesting because people were getting shot at. And like, these are peaceful people getting shot at with paintballs and stuff. So anyway, I digress. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I see that. I just think so once you get the lawyer, you got out on what? Bond, signature bond?
Yeah. Or I know. Yeah. Signature bond.
Okay. I mean, they say it's like $50,000, but you basically sign and walk out.
Yeah.
So, you get the lawyer saying you're going to do some time. Do you feel like you should have done it? You don't feel like you should, nothing.
I'm sorry.
You feel like you should have done some time? You're
Heck
feeling
no.
like, no, I don't feel like I
Hell
did
no.
anything.
No.
Okay. I walked through some open doors, walked through the place.
Exactly.
Maybe somebody else was breaking windows and stuff. I'm just walking around.
If the DOJ had been fair to begin with, because you've seen these leftists burn down these cities and they'll get a slap on the wrist, 6 months probation. You threw a Molotov cocktail in a Starbucks, 6 months probation.
Yeah, come on.
Or you threw a brick at a cop, or we're going to give you 3 months incarceration, and 1 year probation. I had a list of it stacked up because I was trying to create this evidence that it's a political bias,
right?
Prosecutorial bias. And I've seen this for years, for like the last 8 years that Antifa and all them were doing. They were getting these baby sentences. And if the DOJ had been fair with me from the beginning and says, we're going to charge you with trespassing, we're going to offer you 3 months incarceration and 2 years probation, I'd have been like, all right, cool, you got me, fair, I'll take it. I wouldn't have complained about it. But you have guys going to prison for 22 years, like Enrique Tarrio. He was sentenced to 22 years and he wasn't even there. 17 years for this. Guys who just walked in, walked out. You got like women who are in their 70s with cancer. We're going to give them 8 months incarceration, 5 years probation. Come on, dude. It's totally overblown. The judges were in on it because they were chastising people. Hopefully you make better decisions and this and that and this. So it was overblown. That's why I feel like I shouldn't have done any time. Mm-hmm. If they were fair with me at first, I would have been like, cool, let's do it. I'm totally agree to it. But after that, I'm like, no, screw them.
What'd they come to you with?
Initially 7 years. So 7 years initially. That was like 2 years ago they offered me that. I said no. I'm like, I'm not going to take 7 years. I'm not going to stay away from my kid for 7 years.
Right.
He's not going to even know who I am by the time I get out. And then like a year later, July, they dropped that big charge, the 1512. They dropped that. So now the guidelines went down. So it wasn't 7 years. They said, we're going to give you up to 24 months. So I said, okay, I'll take that. So we went to sentencing January 8th, and they asked for 24 months. The judge gave me 14 months, and I had to turn myself in March.
Nice.
I was cool with that. I said, I'll do that. That's a slap on the wrist, basically. It's,
compared to what everybody else is getting.
Yeah, I can eat that 14 months. But Trump came through.
So wait a minute. That was in March you were sentenced.
I was sentenced in January.
Oh,
and
January?
I had to turn myself in this March.
Oh, this March?
Yeah, I was sentenced a couple weeks ago.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying, no, you did say last July or whatever.
July, they dropped the big charge at the Supreme Court. September, I pled guilty because they changed the plea deal after that because, they don't have the big charge anymore. September, changed the plea deal. I accepted it. January 8th was my sentencing a couple weeks ago. And March 8th, I had to turn myself in for 14 months in Coleman. I was going to go to Coleman.
Yeah, you would have gone to, Coleman Low or the
Low
camp?
Yeah, I think they said Coleman Low, which I was prepared to do. I had a bunch of friends in there, and I was like, that's going to be easy, man. 14 months is easy.
You went to high school, right?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah. Oh, well, that sounds too
I
bad.
mean, it's not like it's like a tough high school.
Yeah.
That's
That ain't that bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. There's fist fights and guys talk about each other, and it's just all bullshit.
Yeah.
It's not like going to the pen. Yeah, you would have gone there and been like, guys would be like,
yeah, I had friends there that I was talking to them. I'm like, yeah, well, I guess we're gonna. And some of my other friends were getting sentenced or sent there too. So I'm like, this is gonna be really fun.
Yeah. So what happened when? So you didn't think that Trump was gonna?
I did
win?
not. I did not.
Okay.
On November, I did not. I was stressed about it. Like, man, I'm gonna have to go to prison. And this sucks. 'Cause at the time, I didn't know what I was gonna get. I knew it was gonna be up to 2 years.
Right.
This is gonna suck. I don't want to go to prison. But Trump won. I could not believe it. I got hammered. I think I drank until like 6 a.m. and I just passed out. Like, so happy.
So, I mean, did you? And he had said he was gonna pardon all the January 6ers.
He
Did you
I don't
think
think he
that was-
ever said those words
Oh, okay.
specifically, but he always alluded to, I'm inclined to pardon them. Let me look at the cases. He never explicitly said it. So I was kind of like, man, maybe he's just like trying to, not piss off, the moderates, but also
Yeah.
not piss off the people who support him.
Right.
So I was always like, man, maybe he's going to do it a couple months in, or
Yeah.
before he leaves, the presidency. But man, day one, dude,
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
How'd you find out? Like,
I was watching it live, dude. I was watching it live. And I sat there all day watching it. I was, drinking a beer, watching it all day. And once it came out, I think it was like 7 or 8 o'clock that he signed the pardon for 1,500 people. I was like, oh, dude, pass the bottle, man. I was so excited, man.
Did you get a letter or anything?
Not yet. I had to apply for the actual documents a
Right.
couple days ago. They sent me an email for it. So I had to apply for it. But as of now, the pardon is real. Like, it exists. He signed it. But I'm still like, it's processing right now.
Yeah, you still.
So I'm not out of the
I'd
woods
still
technically.
Like to have a copy.
Yeah.
of it. You might want to get that, Frank.
Yeah. I'm gonna blow it up. Yeah, I'm gonna blow it up huge and frame it on my wall.
Did you? So I have a question. Once you sign out, I'm sorry, you bond out, and you lost your job, right?
That one I didn't lose the job. I didn't lose it. I talked to my boss and he's like, it's like, fuck them. Like, like, no, I'm not firing you. So I didn't lose my job. But once I pled guilty and I became a felon, I had to quit because I couldn't be hired. I couldn't have a license through the state. So I resigned because I
Right.
was going to get fired anyway.
Well, this was only a few months ago.
September. Yeah.
Okay. And okay, so what did you do from there? What were we? I mean,
I just, my buddy, through friends, I had side work. So
Oh, okay.
I've been doing okay.
Are you thinking about going back to that employer? Like you resigned, it's not his fault. Like he
Yeah.
kept you on that whole time.
Yeah, they want me back, but I'm not sure what I'm gonna do yet. I don't know what career decision I want to pursue, but we'll see.
Because
I'm just happy to be done with this.
I was gonna say, like, I was in when Obama did the he signed a bunch of they weren't pardons, they were clemencies, right?
Yeah.
Where he gave a bunch of these guys would get letters in the mail, some their lawyers would get notified. They knew beforehand, but they would get a letter in the mail and stuff like that. Like
Right.
you actually get, and they're like they do walking around like I got this in the mail,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say they kind of fucked that up. The first bunch that they did, they just let them out, and these guys are coming right back to prison. Like, this guy's been locked up 15 years. You just let him out. Like, you can't do that. So then the second wave, they came back. They said, no, you have to go from the pen where you've been for 15 years. I can just let you out into society. I can't just let a rabid dog into a playground. You know what I'm saying? So then they had them go. They would actually bring them from here. They'd go to the medium for 6 months. Then they'd go to the low for 6 months. And some of them, they said, you got to pass RDAP first, which is a drug program. And then they let them out. And those guys had a much easier time. Someone would
Transition.
go to, yeah, you can't just let some guy who's been, fighting for his life for 15 or 20 years, especially some guy who shouldn't have been locked up at all, and let him into, back among the civilized people. But yeah, you got to get that letter.
It's on. I sent an email to the DOJ. I'm waiting on it.
So when you, after that, here's what I'm wondering. After you did got out and you're still at work, did you, like, why didn't you, and this may seem ridiculous, and maybe you did this, I don't know. I don't think so, though. Why didn't you start like a YouTube channel or TikTok or something like that? Some of these guys have done that.
Right. The reason why I didn't do that is because I was working there still, and I didn't, even though my job, that particular office wasn't going to fire me. It was, I don't, let me say this correctly. We're still under a certain company, and that company, I never wanted them to find out because I didn't want, I don't want to be fired. So that's why I tried to lay low. I deleted social media and all that because I didn't want my name to get out there, because as soon as I got arrested, the next day I had people emailing my job like, oh my God, you have, I don't even know how they found my email, my work email. They're like, how you hire Jan.6ers, violent terrorists. And I got a bunch of emails, and my boss is getting emails, and I'm like, so that's why I wanted to lay low. I want to take heat off my job, and I did successfully for years.
Right.
So that's the reason why. Maybe I will now. Who knows?
Yeah, I was gonna say we got.
I would say, just to kind of follow up on that, like, what would you say? Because I'm sure this video will probably have some, like, people that come come to the comment section and are like, this guy's a piece of shit.
Yeah, I've already
Like,
you've seen the comments on the last
yeah,
one.
I saw a comment on another video,
Yeah.
so I know they'll probably be here.
Yeah.
So like, what would you say to, those people?
I don't care. I really don't care what you think. If you're mad at me, you can go fuck yourself. Sorry.
Yeah, the problem is that the comment section, there are already people that have made their minds up, and it doesn't matter if you explain the situation to them. They've decided that you're a scumbag. I mean, look, I did 13 years in prison, you know what I'm saying? Committed a ton of fucking bank fraud, and I get, and even though out of all my victims, the bulk of them are banks, I think I have like 4 individual victims, people that lost money, like a doctor who had to pay like 12 grand to a lawyer because I changed his title, so he had to go through the courts to change that.
Yeah.
And by all means, absolutely, it was a scumbag thing of me to do. Absolutely. He didn't do anything wrong, so he certainly didn't bring it on himself. His biggest mistake was that he just happened to cross my path.
Yeah.
Does that make me a scumbag? Yeah, it makes me a scumbag, but I get people in the comments who will apparently watch the video and say that I stole from old people, that like in their mind, they've got an entire narrative that never happened.
Yeah.
And it took me a little bit to realize, like, there's some people that it doesn't matter if you show them the facts and really explain the situation to them. They've made their mind up and they've made that decision, and there's nothing you can say.
Absolutely.
So, I feel bad for those people, and, that's all you can, that's your take on it. And there's nothing I can say to change your mind. And
you're 100% right. I'm at the point though that I don't really care. Like, if you don't like me, you're mad at me, I can care less if you are. I'm just a regular guy. I have a wife, I have a son. I was a cop for, 9 years, and I've been a good upstanding citizen, and that to me was a patriotic day, and I'm not going to let people shame me into being reclusive and hiding and stuff. I'm not going to hide. I have nothing to hide. So,
hey, you guys, I appreciate you watching. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. By the way, I'm going to leave Nate's email address in the description box if you want to reach out to him. Also, we're going to leave our Patreon. There's a whole chunk that we left out that Colby said I talked too much. And we're going to put that on Patreon. So please consider joining our Patreon. It's $10 a month. It helps Colby and I make videos like this. And I really appreciate you guys watching. Thank you very much. See ya.